right, welcome back, everybody, to the ATB NFL Live Show. We are back with Week 2 action this time. Week 1, I didn't go back and check our record for our predictions. I was kind of afraid to do so I'll to see if I can go back and do that and kind of keep a live thought going. If you guys want me to do that, just because I'm curious how we do this year. But a fun overall Week 1. We'll get into a little bit of thoughts about that
Yeah,
when
I had
we
a
get
great
to
time.
get to each game, but this week at least. But to start off here, guys, I want to recap the Thursday night games since we're not going to be able to preview those games really for the most part. So we'll just try to get into those games and recap them when we get to Saturdays here. Kirk Cousins. I just want to say I feel bad for this man at this point because his primetime record, as much as some of it is on him, he's had some clunkers for sure throughout his career. This one was not his fault. This was a full-on disaster class for the Minnesota Vikings in terms of turnovers that are insane. The defense still can't cover anybody, do anything, especially against the run. DeAndre Swift, if he's certainly back into fantasy managers' minds for sure after his performance in week 2. Just overall, you got to feel like this is what the Vikings could have been easily last year, and they're starting off with the opposite of the one-score game luck with going 0-2 in one-score games. What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, I do really feel for him because I think Kirk, I just said it pre-show, is playing some of the best football of his career.
Yes.
Two of the better games. Like he early MVP candidate, one week and one game in. Early MVP candidate, 0-2 Kirk Cousins. But yeah, it's unfortunate for him. The team admitted it. It's a competitive rebuild, and the defense is feeling the pain. The Brian Flores is going to cook up some funny stuff, but it's not going to work against the elite offenses. And honestly, like the Eagles' offense didn't even look as good as it should have. Right. But yeah, Kirk Cousins is going to do a lot of fun things on offense this year. He's probably going to break a lot of personal records, potentially even like Vikings type records, just when it comes to season long stats because of this defense. Like he's going to have to be on his absolute best every day to get a win. He's been at the top of his game, and he's 0-2. So just tough sledding for Kirk. Hope things get better for him, but the schedule doesn't tell me that that's going to happen.
No, it's tough. He's kind of going to have to do his best, like mid 2010s Breeze impression here, where he's going to throw for like 5,000 yards and go 7-10 or 8-9 because his defense isn't
for the same reason they don't have a defense.
Yeah. It is what it is with Kirk, right? And I think this, like for me, I think about whenever they signed him initially to that guaranteed deal, right? Which now seems like nothing, right? It's like 3 years, $84 million at the time. But when they did that, my biggest qualm with it wasn't necessarily that I didn't think they upgraded pretty heavily over Case Keenum at the time. It was the fact that Kirk really isn't the kind of quarterback, because there's very few of them that exist, that can overcome as much wrong with the Vikings that they had at the time, whether it's the offensive line, the defense that came off a great year but slowly started to decline from there. Like he's not a guy that's going to overcome that stuff because, frankly, he is at his best as just a drop back pocket passer. He's not a playmaker necessarily. He's not one of those guys that can make something happen out of nothing. If you give him time and you give him the opportunity to have like weapons like he has now with Jefferson and Addison and Hawkinson, a lot of sons on that team, but Madison, but overall, like when you give him weapons and time, he's great. It's just that he's not going to overcome some of the deficiencies the team has, especially now that the defense fully feels like it kind of already was this way last year, but they really fully bottomed out now talent-wise. So we feel bad for Kirk. We wonder, and we'll talk about it probably later with the team that will cover the game a little bit later, whether he may end up on a different team at some point this year, because it doesn't look like Vikings are interested in continuing this relationship, and I think it's probably for the best for both sides as the Vikings kind of transition here. But
oh my gosh, if you're pushing fourth, what I think you're pushing fourth, Jesus, oh
yeah,
my Lord.
we'll talk about it, Zach. But yeah, overall, the Eagles we'll touch on a little bit too. Like they still are figuring some stuff out. I think losing Steichen as a play caller.
Shout out Nick Sirianni. He said he was going to get DeAndre Swift involved this week, and by God, did he get DeAndre Swift involved this week?
For sure, the Vikings definitely helped out.
28 carries, 175 yards at a touchdown.
Yeah, that'll play. I think he's probably got that backfield on lock for now until proven otherwise. But it's the Eagles.
I strongly disagree. The Eagles do funny things with their running back. Boston Scott's going to lead the team.
Comes back, they love
it's going to be Boston Scott next week. It'll be Rashad Penny the next week.
Somehow, yeah. It'll
they have them all. Why not use them all?
No, yeah, I agree. But like, I feel like he is the best combination of like just everything that you want from the running back, other than Gainwell. Like Gainwell's a much better pass receiver, I think overall. Like Swift has had his moments as a pass catcher, but we'll see what they do with it. They clearly have plenty of options, like you said. We'll see what they do, but they're
Yeah, and I mean, we saw Miles Sanders rack up a ton of yards last
he
year
did.
without an
Yes.
ounce of vision to his game. So, like,
No.
Swift, proof of concept, he can work
Yeah,
in Philly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Oh,
yeah.
100%.
But honestly, like the Eagles' offense was good, much better than Week 1, I would say. But they still haven't, played like we kind of expect them to. And I think obviously a big part of that is Shayne Steichen not being there as the play caller, right? The offense is obviously not going to be significantly different in terms of what they're trying to do, but the play calling, the sequencing of things, figuring all that out, like that's still going to have to come with time, and hopefully they kind of figure that out more. But Hurts still, there's nothing really he's doing differently. I would say that one thing I'd like to see him do is not drift so much in the pocket and out of the pockets. I think it makes his throws more difficult than they need to be. But that was kind of happening last year. It just didn't matter as much because there's just better play calling at that point in time. But we'll see what happens with them long term. But they're still 2-0, start the season. Nothing really to see here. The defense has still been mostly, I mean, Kirk Cousins lit them up pretty good, but that was just because again, you have to, right? He had to throw the ball down the field, and Jefferson made plays, and Addison made that big play. So we'll see what
They've been
happens from
having
that.
some lapses in pass coverage because
Yeah,
Mac Jones got to them pretty well in the second half of
he
their
did. They
week 1 game.
stuff out.
So
Yeah,
I mean they did lose some people on the back end. So just some
Yeah,
growing
I mean,
pains.
the
yeah,
spine of the defense is completely different, and
Yeah,
it's true.
they've
Yeah,
made they've gotten a lot of wins. Making decisions saying like safeties don't matter, linebackers don't matter. Maybe they do matter a little bit more than they were letting
Kobe
on.
Dean's out. They're very young, and I think that's the bigger thing now is you can see a lot of the youth coming out. It's still a fantastic coach team or a fantastic coach unit, and they're not like for a lot of other teams. If there were questions of, oh, this is a young team, they're going to make those mistakes. They're not making those same mistakes, but at the end of the day, it is still a young team. There are some mistakes that are going to happen every now and then because they have an advantage over a lot of other rosters, but like it's
yeah.
still going to happen.
Yeah, when you downgraded safety and linebacker overall, it's something that still is going to matter to your defense, especially against a team that wants to feed the ball to guys like Jefferson to work over the middle of the field a ton, and Hawkinson as well, who had a really pretty good game for them as well. Like it's just going to happen sometimes, and I think the good thing for them defensively so far is Jalen Carter looks legit, like very very legit. Which
He
we
had what, like 7 pressures or something insane.
it's I think he has like he's on pace so far through 2 games for like something close to 90 pressures or something ridiculous on 50% of the snaps. Like it's some insane a number. I forget what it is, but yeah, he's I think he's probably gonna be just fine as long as he keeps his head on straight. But we'll see. Moving on, so I want to get into the games this week. So from now on we're going to break it up into kind of 3 sections of games because as we mentioned last week, we kind of went through them just in order, but there's games every week that the fans of that team will watch, and probably that's it. The fans of the teams involved in the game. There's games that people will want to tune into at least a little bit, focus more of their time on because they find them interesting. And then there's games that you really should probably tune into if you can, right? Like that. That's kind of how we feel about the NFL slate every week. So we start
Yes.
with
Sorry, I just got caught on a story about Shohei Otani's locker being completely cleared out, and that the Angels were going to be explaining on Saturday. Sorry.
Oh, well.
Very interesting.
Baseball news on the NFL ATB show as well.
I don't know baseball. He's the guy who plays both ways, right?
Yeah,
Correct,
like
correct.
the best,
All right.
Very
basically
good.
the best player in baseball right now.
Muy good. No.
Lots of talk of him getting traded. So,
well, he can't be traded now because he's not a member of the Angels as of game 162. So we'll see.
oh,
Yeah, his
that's
contract's
right.
over.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's for another show that I won't do because
Anyways.
I already did
Anyways.
MLB stuff at one point. Not doing that anyway. So let's get into the 5 meh is how we've categorized them games. Let's start with the Bears and Bucks. Those two teams have very different week ones. The Bucks kind of had their surprise win. Like I said, the Vikings did lose that game, and Kirk played pretty well. But
they showed us the pretenders.
Yes, they showed that the Vikings are very much not the team that they were last year in terms of record, and they're not that much different, like we kind of talked about, but they still aren't going to have the one score game luck that they had last year. But the Bucks come away with a win. Baker Mayfield apparently was talking about he knew the signals or something, and I'm pretty sure that is not that like a big deal. Like I think people kind of know that after a while of playing. Like I don't know, whatever.
When you're Baker Mayfield, you have to say
yeah,
these things.
you got to take your win, right? You got to take the W when you can get it. But no, so the Bears and Bucks game for me, it's about the Bears. Can they do something offensively at all consistently? Because week one, if let me just put it this way, if you haven't seen any of the got like JT O'Sullivan does quarterback school, I'm sure anyone watching this, if you're on Twitter, you see his stuff a lot, or if you watched him, just go look up his Bears video on YouTube or look up clips from him on Twitter. Like it's so funny. Like if you just want to get good laugh, like if you're a Bears fan, you want to get something, like get it out of your system, just be able to laugh at your team. Go watch the clips that he put out because this offense right now has no clue what it's doing. Like zero idea of how to play offensive football. Justin Fields is still a guy that you really need to scheme up well, I think, in the passing game, especially because, and I think part of the biggest problem with him right now is he hasn't seen the field particularly well since coming into the league, and his release is fluid but slow. I think you need to speed up his process on purpose. Like you have to try to get him to have throws that are quick trigger. Like you got to get the ball out quick because of that. Because I think if he waits too long in the pocket, he will end up throwing the ball into coverage, like we saw with the Quay Walker interception for a touchdown. Right, like he just wasn't on time with things, didn't see the field well, and that's how you end up throwing picks. Right, so overall, let's go to Tony here. What do you think about this matchup? Do you think the Bears can get it back on track a little bit more, or do you think that they're kind of still in a rut offensively?
Yeah, no, I came away from week one totally uninspired with the Bears. I thought they were going to be bad, so like I came into it expecting to see things that weren't good, and yeah, they didn't give me any reason to think they're any better. I also think the Packers are really good, so like some amount of balance between those two things. Like, are the Bears the worst team in the league? No, probably not. Are they closer to the worst team in the league than the middle of the league? I'd say probably. I think that Justin Fields is real. It's really concerning that he just hasn't found a way to speed up his process yet.
Yeah.
I think the issues that he walked into the NFL with in terms of the passing game, obviously we know how good of an athlete he is in the run game. No, 2 designed runs, by the way. Come on, be better, Luke Getsy. But it's just that he hasn't shown any improvement in the ability to speed up his process. And the NFL's fast, and I think processing might have been his issue coming out. And so, like, I just don't know if that's going to develop now. We're at the point now where, like, they've done the thing. They traded out of the first overall pick. They got a star receiver in the building, 2 targets. They're doing all the right things. They draft a top 10 right tackle. Like, they're doing all the right things, and he isn't even showing, like, the progress to give you hope. And so that's my main concern, is just like at a certain point early in this season, we're gonna need to see that before the Bears just kind of throw in the towel and get all excited about Caleb Williams or something. On the other side, I was impressed with the Bucks. I still think that the bottom can fall out very quickly on this team, but it takes seeing the football happen to remind yourself, oh yeah, they still have a ton of really good players. I wasn't respecting that during the offseason. So if things continue to roll well, I see them compounding on it, but I could also see the bottom falling out at any given point. Week 2, I don't see the bottom falling out, so give me the Bucks over the Bears. They just look like a better team right now, and I expect that to roll into week 2. I don't have a score prediction for this one. We'll save scores for games that matter.
Yeah, well, yeah. All right, Zach, what do you think on this one? Anything you want to add to the Bears-Bucks?
So like the Bucks played a really good game last week, like we said. It was very surprising. However, if I'm Baker Mayfield, I'm very much hoping for a better game this week because it is an easier opponent than Minnesota. I wouldn't say by much defensively. I don't have a lot of respect for Minnesota's defense either. But I mean, the Bears are still figuring some stuff out. So they're the ones that signed Tremaine Edmonds, right?
Yep. Yes. And it didn't look good week 1.
No, he didn't exactly help the cause in week 1.
Yeah. But. So, it'll be interesting. I want to see Rachaad White do more because I definitely think that he could be very big for for Tampa Bay to like really like rely on him to go through the season.
I sure hope so. He's on my fantasy team.
Yeah, I definitely feel like he has the capability. And
late.
Tampa's the home team, so I'll take in a game of 2 bad teams. I'll take the home bad team. So yeah, I mean, Mayfield has the wide receivers. That's the thing. Like there's plenty of people for him to throw it to, and like he can be aggressive and they can get down the field. on the flip side, it's just going to be for Chicago whether or not they can finally take advantage of a team that, I mean, they had like Tampa Bay has some like good players, but take advantage, like finally like do something. We're waiting. It's going to have to happen eventually.
Well, it never has to happen, Zach. Let's be
Yeah.
honest. It could just never happen. I think the problem with the Bears ultimately is like I've never really questioned Fields' ability to actually just throw the football. It's about whether he knows where to go with the football, right? And that's and when he needs to go, where he wants to go with the football. Like it's all that stuff, right? And unfortunately, that's kind of the biggest part of throwing the ball. Like I really feel like Fields as a passer is almost the antithesis of like Tua, where like he has got a lot of physical ability as a passer and as a runner, but doesn't know when to get rid of the ball, doesn't throw with anticipation, doesn't read the field well. Whereas Tua is like literally everything that he isn't as a passer. It's very funny. Like those two obviously aren't in the same class or anything, but I feel like those two as prospects are about as different as you can get. And it cracks me up watching them like side by side.
Hey,
Yeah, you've got the
is
cerebral marksman and like just
Yes.
the athlete.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Hey, Tua's working on bulking up to get the protection.
We'll see. No, the point. Yeah, again, I'm going to take the Bucks because if you squint real hard, you see a good roster, right? It's just will it become one enough to actually mean anything this year? I'm still going to say probably not. They're probably going to be at best a mid-tier team, but hey, that's probably better than most people thought they would be. So we'll
It's going to
see
come down to how many times do they shoot themselves in the foot.
Yeah, well, hopefully not too many times. We'll say. Moving on, Texans Colts. This one I haven't, man, mostly because even though Richardson is fine, apparently not going to be a problem. Stroud apparently has a shoulder thing. I don't know if it's going to keep
questionable.
Questionable, which even if he does play, that means he is going to be a little bit banged up. You'd love to see a fully healthy game from both of these quarterbacks. Get to see the rookies play against each other. But because of that, and just again, the Texans didn't exactly blow the doors off of anybody week one. They didn't really do anything particularly great. The defense was actually pretty solid overall, but the offense.
Give Indianapolis credit last week.
Yes,
they played well,
Richardson,
especially against they played Jacksonville, correct?
Yes, they did. Yeah,
yes,
and they were in that game for really most of it until the very end. That last drive kind of fell apart when Richardson got hurt, but basically at the end of the day with the Colts, Richardson looked very good and to my opinion, easily the best of the week one starters, right? Like for quarterbacks.
The only thing that scares me about Richardson is he needs to learn how to not
protect
take
himself.
The hits. Yes, that was terrifying. That was absolutely terrifying. And he's not going to last the season if that's how he's going to play.
Yeah, he needs to do a little bit better at that at least. Like he's a guy that's going to be using the run game. He's going to take some hits. It's just going to be what it is. But he does have to at least do a little bit better job of protecting himself especially when he isn't going to get many yards and he has to understand that. Just take what you can get and get down. Like if you're trying to break open a big player, you have a ton of running room. I'm more willing to let him do kind of the Josh Allen thing of like I don't give a shit. I'm just going to run through people, but if you're only going to get 2 yards, just get your 2 yards and be done. Really, don't take shots you don't need to. But yeah, so I'd be more excited about this game if that was the case. If both quarterbacks weren't dealing with a little bit of something. But what do you think on this one, Tony?
I was also impressed with Anthony Richardson. He didn't look out of place, which I feel like a lot of rookie QBs can.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the positives were just kind of circumstantial. Like, okay, the 40-something yard catch and run on a screen. Like, I don't know how sticky that is. Like, I don't know. I think that we're going to see a very like they have a floor, which is good. It's never going to be an outright disaster, but I don't think there's a very high ceiling on the Colts offense. And then the Texans. I guess nice things to say is that they looked like an NFL team, and I feel like they haven't a lot over the past few years.
Especially defensively.
They looked like an NFL team that was outmanned, but they looked like they had a plan. They looked like they knew what they were supposed to be doing. It seemed like the DeMeco Ryans effect. You could kind of feel it, and I was impressed with CJ Stroud. I think not world burning performance, but he didn't get help. Like his offensive line is on some on life support right now. Yes, IR is the word. They're in a rough spot. The run game didn't give him anything. He wasn't getting a ton of help from his pass catchers, but he still put together a decent game.
I thought Nico Collins played pretty well. Which
Nico Collins actually did. Yeah, he played well.
He's the one you hope can break out a little bit here. Yeah,
and then I was really impressed with Will Anderson. He as advertised. But overall, I think that you have the Colts are going to be chaotic this year because they like their athletes, and it's a bit more of a sporadic setup. And the Texans are going to be a bit flatter, more consistent, but still not very good. So it'll be interesting to see. Like, I think I'm picking the Colts, but it's really just an absolute coin flip. I think I'm picking the Colts.
Yeah, what do you think, Zach? Anything you want to add here?
Yeah, I'm likely picking the Colts. 100% if Stroud is in play.
Well, yeah. But
If Stroud does play, it's going to be a good game, like just competitive wise to see, like, because I feel like when you drop when both teams are bad, you get like really, because like they let
it could
stuff
go
slide.
very much either way. It's either
Exactly,
defensive
and they let
slugfest or
and
both
like
teams score 35.
there was
or
what was that game like 5-10 years? I think it was the Browns and
the Browns Lions game.
Was it Browns Lions or was it Browns Ravens on like a Monday night or like Sunday night game, and like or maybe it was a Thursday night game, and they like returned a field goal for.
Oh no, that was Browns Ravens. That was
yeah,
what's his face, the safety that always got like
yeah, and like both
yeah.
teams going into it, it was like, oh, I don't know about this. Like
yeah.
this is
you
going to
can
be
always get a barn
game.
burner with these games.
And
it's always possible. Yeah,
exactly. So like I feel like with the fact that both of these teams are rebuilding and young and just trying to find something to go, like you could end up with a really interesting, like both teams getting the 20s, like are trading back and forth some possessions. But I do think that the Colts have the upper edge right now, just with the way that everything looks after week 1.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the Colts, again, they have more variance. And you kind of talked about Tony. I think their highs will be higher and their lows will be lower. And I think this week, especially if Stroud is banged up and they're playing a team that, while it did show up defensively overall against the Ravens, I think they did a pretty solid job in general. They're still building that defense up, and I think that the Colts should be able to move the ball relatively well on them. So I think I'll take the Colts, but it could go either way, and it's probably going to be a bit of a fun game depending on who plays.
Tickets as low as $19.
Yeah,
it's not the lowest.
That's tough. Yeah. Giants Cardinals next.
That's the lowest.
That's got to be the lowest, right?
Yeah, that's the lowest, right? Yeah. I would let people in for free if I was that. Like, just so you get people to show up.
I would pay people so it looks like the people actually want to go there on TV.
At this point, that might be beneficial. But so let's just get this out of the way. The Giants had maybe the worst opening game to a season in NFL history.
Oh, not even opening game, like the worst night in NFL history.
It was about as dreadful gets in this sport when the parity is so high and there's the teams are usually not separated by that much. This is about as much of a one-sided game as we'll probably see in a long time and really all year. Mostly just because of all the things, like there's a list of stuff that like no one has ever done in a season, but they did all in one game, like field goal returned on you and like interception and some other, like I forget what all of them are, but there's like a list of like 5 or 6 things that no team has ever had happen to them in the same season, and the Giants accomplished it in one singular game to open their season. So it's only up from here, right? If it cannot go worse. Their season is already going to be on the up and up the rest of the way, no matter what. But
hey, the fact that you fumbled 5 times and only lost one of them, that could be one win. It could have been so much worse.
It could have been worse. Gosh, no, like that game was
when Noah Igbenogany Igbenogany is scoring your first touchdown of the season against you. That's
tough.
Yeah.
Tough.
It was a bad night.
If they can't make it work, if they can't get it going as the Cardinals and and this can't be a get right game, I don't know. The Giants were already had a schedule. I was hoping they wouldn't take a step back from that. At least I was hoping they'd be a similar caliber team this year. If they can't get it going against the Cardinals week 2, I know it's week 2. I'm going to be sounding some alarm bells because week 1 was bad enough. You can kind of toss that away because it's week 1 and you can say fluky and everything else. And it was fluky because stuff happened in the game that just doesn't happen in the sport. They just like consistently, but they better get right in this game. What do you think, Zach?
All right, so we've been dogging on Giants fans for a little bit right now for the past 5 minutes. Here's what you hope for. You hope that week 1 was not necessarily entirely about like the step back for the Giants and more about, oh man, the Cowboys are really, 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 really good. And we ran up against a really, really, really good defense and we just couldn't get anything going. That's what you hope for. And you hope that this week the Cowboys absolutely destroy the Jets and don't make and make
prove
both.
that
Exactly.
It's not just you.
The worst thing that can happen is this week they go out to Arizona and struggle against the Cardinals and make everybody realize that no, last year was all a mirage. This team was incredibly lucky. Yes, we understand that they were ahead of schedule, but man, they were way ahead of schedule. And then it turns into, what is this Giants team? I'm not necessarily sounding alarm bells, maybe, because I outside of Saquon, like, you have pretty much everything locked up and you have a young roster that you can afford to maybe take a year and not worry about it. But if it's really bad, like, there's going to be some questions of, oh man, we just gave all this money to Daniel Jones. What do we do about that now if he is the problem? So it'll be interesting to see what happens this week. I think this week is probably the telltale of, like, oh, all right, the Giants are last in the NFC East, or all right, they're going to compete.
Yeah, what do you think, Tony?
I don't know. Week one, I don't take too much out of week one because week one has a lot of weird shit. A lot of weird shit happens. Yeah, some of it is, signaling something that is going to happen for the rest of the year. The majority of it is just noise. And because it's week one, it's the first football we've seen in a while, it feels more important. There's something about when you, on the very first drive, get a field goal returned for touchdown against you, blocked returned for touchdown, things just kind of fall apart. And things fell apart very quickly. And so the magnitude of the score and everything in that game, it's just a shit game. Like, the fact that it was 40-0, it could have been 28-10, still a shit game. Like, just because some of those plays happened, it doesn't mean that, like, the Giants are absolutely dreadful. I'm not worried at all about this game against the Cardinals. They're gonna shit pump the Cardinals. It's the Cardinals we're talking about. I'm not worried. And, like, even if they struggle, I'm not gonna worry. If they lose, I'll be like, oh wow, yeah, like, I expected them to be 8-9. They're probably gonna be 6-11. But, like, no matter what, this is a team that we expected to be terrible last year. They made the playoffs. They signed the quarterback. So yeah, it'd be nice if they were good again. But the roster's still bad. Like, this isn't their year. They don't think this is their year. So even if they start 0-2, like, we're not having questions about the regime. No, like, this is year 2 of taking over a terrible team in a terrible cap situation. So yeah, I'm not reading into any start the Giants could have. I don't think they're going to be a relevant team this year. So I have no reason to move off of that stance right now. I do think the Cardinals are going to be just absolutely dreadful. And this is going to really wake everybody up to that when we're like, oh, they hung around the Commanders last week, and then they're just going to get steamrolled by the team that just got steamrolled, and we're all going to feel a little bit better about the season.
Yeah, you hope so. When I said about the alarm bells, it's more so referencing, like, just this season, because, like, I'm not worried about the regime at all, and it would take a lot for me to be worried about that. But I will say one thing that the Giants have to figure out is they have to figure out a way to make Evan Neal playable. If that means moving him inside or figuring out a different right tackle situation, like, clearly he's much more comfortable at left tackle, and that's what he played best at Alabama. He's not going to play that for this team, obviously, with Andrew Thomas there. So if they need to move him inside and see if he's better there, something like because he was, among all of the bad offensive line play, he was probably the biggest issue for them in week one. And granted, again, against the Cardinals, you hope that it's not going to be that big of a deal because, again, Dennis Gardeck, is that their best pass rusher outside of, like, I guess BJ Ojulari, you hope can be that guy, but, like, it's you hope that they can handle them at least, but we'll see what happens. I'm actually just for both the memes and also just to be chaotic, I'm gonna pick the Cardinals to win just because I think it'll be funny.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I want
it's
them
okay.
to win.
Yeah. It's okay. I got one up on both of you guys last week because I picked New
Yeah.
Orleans and you guys both picked Tennessee. So
that is true.
I
But
mean,
hey,
nice.
1 point, and the Saints are still bad, Zach. They're still bad. We'll talk about them in a minute. Commanders, Broncos. This is a firm, and I'm gonna put this out there. DNC, do not care. This is a firm do not care game
for you, maybe.
Listen, Zach. I don't care about the Commanders as much as I do. I do hope Sam Howell is good because I did think he would be pretty good. I just don't. I can't find a way to care about this team. And like them being mostly just kind of meh in week one didn't change that for me. So I'm going to keep them in that category. Now they can prove me wrong. If they come out here and just shit stomp the Broncos, that'll be very funny to me. And also I would then, maybe care more about them. But I just don't care. Like the Broncos Raiders game was boring as shit. And like the most interesting thing out of that game is hoping Jacoby Myers' head stays on straight the rest of the season. Like that hit was insane from Kareem Jackson, by the way. Like I can't believe Myers didn't just straight up die on the field. It was insane. But other than that, like nothing of note from that game for me personally, honestly. I just don't care about these teams. You
what I
guys
will
have go ahead, Zach. I know you want to talk about the Commanders.
Well, no, what I'll say about Washington is exactly to your point of Sam, how week one looked very much like a quarterback who was asking to start his second game and getting the jitters out. I definitely think that with a few weeks, they showed a lot of promise in week one with the offense. There were just too many self-inflicted wounds that were like stupid. Like there were drives where they were going down and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, a dumb penalty here, something like that. So I definitely think a lot of that will get cleaned up with some weeks. I did not watch the Raiders in Denver game only because I was stuck with my eyes glued on the thriller that was the Chargers and Dolphins.
You picked right.
Well, yeah, of course I picked right. It's my team. Yeah, I didn't really know how Denver did. I mean, was the defense like respectable? Where did they continue to play well?
The defense were fine. I think it's just like I just don't care about the Broncos. Like I just can't do it anymore. Like the offense was better looking, but still scored 16 points. So maybe this is just a thing.
Well, I'll
save my thoughts for when I'm up.
Yeah,
I have different thoughts about
I'll go for my opposite of the contrarian. I'm picking Washington to win because I'm sticking with the home team. They sold out week one. It's looking good. It's looking good around here. People are happy.
Yeah, that's good. What do you think, Tony?
So I'm not doing score predictions for these lower level games. I will do for this though. The Broncos are winning by double digits. The Commanders were incredibly uninspiring last week. I didn't quite enjoy that game, nor did I enjoy how they looked in that game. I don't know. I really expected them to come out just with energy and something about it felt wrong to me. And then the Broncos, on the other hand, yes, they scored 16 points. They're very used to scoring 16 points. I think that happened 8 different times last year. It was a very funny trend.
I'll pull it up.
They got.
Yeah, I want to see the actual number. It's probably like 3, not 8. But either way, it's funny that they scored a lot of 16 points. But they actually had it really, really strong underlying metrics. They only had 6 possessions of the football in this game.
Yeah.
It's really hard to score a lot of points when you have 6 possessions of the football.
Yeah.
However, future games they'll probably have more than 6 possessions of the ball.
Right.
They were 7th in success rate and 8th in EPA per play on offense.
That's so many times.
5 times. That's absurd. That is absurd.
Six. If you
16 points isn't a normal number to land on. It's a little bit obscure.
6 times if you add this game, and then one of those games was in overtime last year.
I love it. Chef's kiss. But no, so they were 7th in success rate, 8th in EPA per play last week. The offense was moving. The run game was moving well. It looked like it was schemed up well. The pass game was all very short and intermediate. There isn't a lot of deep to this game. Hopefully Marvin Mims can develop that connection with Russ, because I think like the Russ moonball, like it's built for a guy like Marvin Mims. So I think we could see that start to hit later in the season. But I do think that just in a normal game with a more normal pace and number of possessions, they're going to put points on the board.
And they left a point on the field too.
Yeah, I think their defense is pretty well coached. I think that they are going to be one of the better in the all right teams tier. They're going to be one of the better teams in that tier. So give me the Broncos by 10 plus points here.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Broncos too, and I will say like the reason I said about the offense is score and like I care about them in the sense that I think they're going to be better. I just think it's very funny they managed to still score 16 points. I know the possessions are a big part of that, but it's just like, dude, 16 points again. Like, get out of here with this stuff.
I can't imagine the taste that must have left in Broncos fans' mouths. Like,
it's in a normal way too. It's not in a normal way because like a normal way I would be like, oh yeah, 1 touchdown and 3 field goals, but they missed an extra point. So
very typical of this team.
The kicker they traded for, Will Lutz, missed an extra point.
Yeah, good. You love to see it. Honestly, also they do get Jerry Jeudy back this week as well, which should help them a little bit, you hope. I wonder. I think Sean Payton's like, listen, if we don't score more than 16 points next week, I'm gonna just retire because this is insane. Like I said, 16 points, 6 out of 18 games now. A third of the time you're scoring 16 points. It's not even just the fact that, like, you're scoring not many points. It's the fact that it's 16. How are you doing this? You have to.
You know how many points the Commanders allowed last week?
16.
17. Wasn't this 20 to
16.
17?
It was
Oh,
16.
I thought it was 16.
It was 20 to 16.
20 to 16.
Oh, I thought it was 17 for some reason.
No,
well, hey, if the Cardinals can score 16 points, the Broncos better score 65 points. Like, it's just this what they got to do. We'll say. All right, Saints Panthers. I'm just gonna say right now, Panthers made me sad. Granted, the Falcons defense looked crazy, and Jesse Bates is huge,
man, doing his best Jordan Whitehead impression.
Yeah, I think the Panthers will be fine ultimately, but that was a rough start for them. And I think the Falcons says a lot more about the Falcons defense, in my opinion, just because they added a lot to that side of the ball, and it's meshing very well early. We'll see if they can keep it up. We'll talk about them a little bit later. But Panthers made me sad. The Saints just made me have gas, I would say. That's how I feel about this team.
Look.
Interesting.
The Tennessee defensive front is
indigestion. Yeah,
the defense is good.
Yeah, all I'm saying is I don't think that the Panthers are going to hold Jamal Williams to 45 yards on 18 carries. I don't see that happening.
I don't know. I feel like he had that same exact stat line like three different times in Detroit last year, just a couple touchdowns tacked on.
Yeah, yards per carry guy. But
well, okay.
Is Kendra Miller going to be healthy for this game? Because I haven't seen that.
Good Lord, I don't know. But all I'm saying, okay, let me rephrase. I don't see them holding the Saints to 69 yards on 27 carries.
Nice.
That's yeah. But that's what happened last week.
Yeah, that's quite impressive.
Yeah, the Titans had a fantastic defensive game, at least from the rushing game, and Derek Carr found some seams in the secondary. I'm not concerned about the passing game. Chris Olave showed up. Michael Thomas had a good game. So
he's still alive.
Yeah, 5 receptions, 61 yards, baby.
You're not talking about the safety, Michael? No, God.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I think that they ran into a strong defense. Do I think that they're like a competitive team for the playoffs? Like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a team for the NFC? No, but I definitely still think that they're going to be very much competing for the top of the NFC South.
And that means something, for sure.
A playoff berth is a playoff berth.
Man.
I mean, at the end of the day, like, this is one of my gripes about college football with the way that it's turned into the national championship. And like, yeah, it is Super Bowl or bust, but a lot of places around this country, like, it is just about, is the football team winning? Are they going to the playoffs? And New Orleans is absolutely one of those towns where it doesn't necessarily matter if they get to the Super Bowl. If they get to the playoffs, that they're gonna go nuts. Like, they just want to see their team be successful.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I'm going to take the Saints here just because I do think the Panthers have some things to iron out still. Also, again, the Saints are trying to be mid, and they're doing it. So good for them, right? A+ job, guys.
They're really nailing this is what they wanted. They're nailing it.
Their defense also showed up week 1, and they don't normally do that.
Well, Ryan Tannehill also left his bag at home, but whatever.
Yeah, I don't know if that defense had to show up.
Yeah,
I think they would have been just fine had they not.
3 interceptions.
At least if they weren't out there, they couldn't catch the ball thrown to them by Ryan Tannehill. So
yeah, like
it is.
How long
it was a pretty easy day for them.
How long before we see one of Malik Willis or Will Levis? I believe it would be Malik Willis at this point.
Not until like week 16 or 17.
Vrabel's like, we gotta thug it out.
Yeah, I just think they're going to be in the hunt the entire season, and they're not doing it until they're mathematically eliminated.
Yeah, I would say so too.
Back to the Monday night game. If anybody in the greater Charlotte area has tickets that they want to give me, I'll go. I'm not going to pay for them, but I'll go. There's 2 Monday night games. I don't know which one I want to watch, honestly. We're going to talk about the other one much later, which should indicate that one is a better game than the other. I wasn't overly impressed with the Saints just because, like we said, the defense didn't have to show up. That they just had to be on the field, and Ryan Tannehill was going to find them. I think that game was much more about Ryan Tannehill than the Saints defense. And then also the Titans defense is a pass funnel. Like they are stout run defense. They're all about the defensive line, and their secondary is less that like they got the good safeties, but I don't know. They are very much a pass funnel. Fire up Mike Williams this week, but I don't want to read too much into that about the Saints. I think that Derek Carr is going to be very serviceable in this offense. Like I think you surround Derek Carr with a mediocre offensive line and slightly above average offensive weapons, and you have a very functional offense. So we're going to see that continue. I think they're going to put a spanking on the Panthers because the real story is that the Panthers look damn terrible.
Speaking of which, we do not have the Chargers game listed in our games anywhere. So I don't know where we want to. No, I don't know where we want to throw that.
It's a fair point you make there.
Oh, I realized I missed the Chargers Titans. We'll put them in the interesting category.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
That's a very interesting game to me. So,
yeah, so we'll throw them in. Speaking of which, moving into the interesting games. Let's start Dolphins Patriots.
I thought that was must see.
Right, that's must see television.
Oh, did I not change it?
No,
I didn't change it. That's my bad,
Packers
guys.
Falcons.
Yeah, we're moving to Packers Falcons. So this game, Jordan Love looked good in his season debut overall against the Bears, right? Like, and granted, the Bears did not look like they showed up in that game, but still, Jordan Love made some very good plays. And Falcons' run game and their overall philosophy worked against the Panthers, and I think that overall they looked pretty sound offensively, even though it's very, very much unspectacular. And I know apparently Desmond Ridder was asked about his stats and everything. It's like, well, for winning, it doesn't matter, and he's right. But I do think it's interesting.
It's a very Tim Tebow answer.
Yeah,
I would also tell him he's wrong. I feel like the way you win matters when you're talking about how much you can win in the future.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's where I was kind of getting at. I think that the Falcons offense, the way it looked in week one, is not sustainable for winning, but it'll work against teams that can't get anything going offensively because you can control the clock and grind it down and kind of just let your defense win games for you.
Bijan Robinson looked amazing.
Yeah, he's as advertised.
He's that dude.
Granted, Algier played pretty damn well himself, so
100%. Yeah,
he's going to get out there on the field. But I think the Packers-Falcons game is going to be a really good test for both teams to kind of see where they're truly at, because definitely tougher opponents on both sides for them in this game, obviously, right? Like, you expect the Falcons defense to hopefully continue from where they started in week one, try to give Jordan Love some fits, try to get him bait into some throws to Jesse Bates, of course, baited Bryce Young twice in that game, so you'll see if we can do that again. And the Falcons offense, you really want to see if they can get the ground game going again and kind of rely on that, or does Desmond Ridder actually have to do much of anything? That's really the big question, I think, for me, is how long can they get away with not requiring Ridder to throw the football very much? What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, it's a really interesting matchup. These are two of my darling teams this year. Yes. So my division winners for both respective divisions. Right. I was more impressed with the Packers than I was with the Falcons last week.
Yeah,
a lot of my Falcons hype has been based on the idea that they added a ton to their defense, and I thought that they were going to get more explosives out of their defense. That absolutely happened.
Yes.
I also thought they have the best run-blocking O-line in football, and that appeared to remain consistent. And I thought that their run game was going to be elite. But there was a fourth piece that really mattered to my predictions for this team, and that was that Desmond Ridder was named the starter because he could run the Ryan Tannehill offense. That's why I thought he was named the starter. Turns out he was just there, and that's why they named him the starter.
Yeah.
And so they ran the offense with the intent of not really throwing the football. And this game is going to be exciting to see what happens when they have intent. Because can Desmond Ridder do it when he has intent? And that's a question. I haven't seen a lot to make me think that it does. I'm still a believer. It's just getting concerning at this point that I haven't seen it. It's getting harder to talk myself into it. I think the Packers are a better team. Their defense in the past has been really rough in terms of defending the run. So if there's a chance for Atlanta in this one, I think it might be another very run-focused game. But overall, I do expect the Green Bay's passing attack, especially if Christian Watson is healthy, to just kind of take over.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the most impressive things for Green Bay last week. Is that was the one thing we said in our pregame was, hey, Christian Watson's going to be out, Romeo Doubs is hurt. What's going to happen? And Jordan Love said, yeah, watch this, and lit it up. I don't think you, as a Green Bay fan, you could be any more thrilled with that performance and seeing him do that in the first game back, or in the first game without Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, I'm excited because like I don't think I did start. I ended up starting Tua, which was fine because
Obviously, yeah.
I was
Oh,
going to start,
QB1.
but I was gonna start Jordan Love, and then we talked about it, and I was like, okay, maybe I should just start Tua. I'll go with that. Whatever. I'll take the chance. But I would have been happy either way. He had a fantastic game. So yeah, I'm very excited to see what happens for them as far as Atlanta. Yeah, run the ball. I guess that's what we're doing.
Yeah. So I think ultimately, like the Packers, right? I was very much a Jordan Love guy in the draft, and when he came out with that one in that draft class in
You had him
2020,
over Tua, right?
I did, yes, at the time.
I love bringing
Which,
that up every single
yeah,
time. It's just
yeah, I did, yeah. Now I will say with him again, he looked very good, and I think that
They can
offense is going
all
to be
be
just
great
fine.
quarterbacks.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about those guys, a lot of these guys.
I love a delayed win like that. Like a 5 years later actually being right. Like nothing feels better than that. Like
Yeah, and a lot of it for me was tools because that was my biggest question with too, and it's still the biggest limiter on him, even though it doesn't matter anymore. We'll talk about him a
Oh
little bit
no, it
later.
doesn't matter at all.
But I do think the Packers' offense is going to be very good. I do wonder if the Falcons can keep pace because if the Packers can score 24, 27 points in a normal kind of game where they're not turning the ball over a lot, can the Falcons score with them? And that's kind of what you go back to, Tony, is like the rushing offense is probably going to be great. It's going to be great when the defense is playing well. Can they, if they need to, can they drop back and throw the football well enough to score points and move the ball when they need to go quickly, right? So far, we haven't seen the need technically very often, but we also haven't seen it work when they have had to try to do it. So I'm just, until they show it, I'm going to assume that it's probably not going to be a good part of their game. And until it's proven otherwise, I'm going to take the team that I think is just a better equipped team overall, and that's the Packers. So I'm going to give them the edge there. Seahawks Lions, very interesting matchup here because we saw this matchup last year where there was like a billion points scored between the two teams, and Seahawks ended up coming out on top in that situation. But Seahawks didn't exactly look like the 2022 version of themselves offensively in Week 1, and the Rams kind of housed them overall. It was pretty rough to watch. And the Lions do come away with a huge moral victory, more so than anything else, getting the Chiefs in Week 1 and beating them. Although I think they did play well overall. I think the defense was relatively sound. It wasn't anything, too good or bad either way. I think both of these teams are interesting to watch the rest of the season because can the Seahawks get the passing game going like they did last year, and can the Lions offense get back to what it was doing at the end of last season as well? So what do you think on this one, Zach?
Yeah, I'm very excited. I'm hoping to see a bit more. Well, I mean, I'm hoping to see a bit more of the Lions offense, but you also hope that the corn like this I love the Seahawks defense because there's so many pieces on there that I'm like, oh, this is really cool. Like this is like a juggernaut that they're building again. And like last week was just very upsetting to watch a team that again everybody was like, oh, they're not going to do anything. They turn around and have a fantastic season and nothing. So it's going to be interesting because like honestly my money's going to be on Detroit because of how they performed in Week 1. They're going home, and the biggest mark I think that they changed from last year to this year is the defense. The defense is looking so much better. They shut down Patrick Mahomes. I know they didn't have Travis Kelce, but I mean
Kadarius Toney really shut down Patrick.
Well, yeah, and the Seahawks don't have Travis Kelce either. They also don't have Kadarius Toney.
True.
So I mean, personally, I want to see Detroit win the NFC North and go to the playoffs and be a threat in the NFC. That's my dream for this season. Outside of the Dolphins making it to the Super Bowl. Right. But the most expensive tickets this week, 157 as a low.
Fair.
So interesting.
What do you think, Tony?
I don't think the Seahawks played all that terrible of a game. Things just got out of hand for them. The Rams really just came out swinging. Like Matt Stafford played some perfect football.
Oh yeah, and looked real good.
And on that, I think there's been a very very long off season of everybody just being like, oh, the Rams are ass. We're not expecting anything from them. Why would we expect anything? And then they were like, oh hey, by the way, we do have Aaron Donald. We do have Matthew Stafford. We might not have Cooper Kupp, but like we still have pieces on our roster.
Oh, that wasn't Cooper Kupp out there. Oh no, that was no. Okay, Puka out there.
Puka and Tutu. It was just really impressive stuff out of Matt Stafford. And the Seahawks, I wanted them to be better week one. I still believe in this team.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it yet, but
I before the season, I saw these teams on a very similar plane. That remains the same. I'm going to give Detroit the edge because they're at home. I do think Seattle will cover. The 4.5 spread is kind of heavy to me. Like I said, I think these teams are in the same tier. For the Seahawks, my biggest concern is one, like getting the tackles healthy, because you don't plan for that. You don't have to. You don't plan to lose both of your tackles. But I guess it's a function of the protection, but Gino just didn't look confident the way that he did last year. No, and so I really want to see him get back to that. I don't know if this, like, it's going to have to happen against like a layup defense, I think. I don't think Detroit's a layup defense. I also don't think Detroit's as good as the team that beat the Chiefs on Thursday. I don't think either team played a very good game. And I'm really, really happy for Detroit and proud of Detroit for doing something that, like, playing an imperfect game against the Chiefs feels like a recipe for a loss 100% of the time. Playing an imperfect game against the Chiefs and winning is just testament to a well-coached team, I think, is that you can make those mistakes and not make them bigger than they are. So, like, I am more optimistic on the Lions coming out of that game than I was, but I don't want to give them too much credit either and say that they're now, like, this great team. So, Seahawks to cover, I really... It's a tough game to call. It's a tough game to call.
Let's go, man, Campbell.
Lions win, Seahawks cover. We'll go with that.
Yeah, I'll pick the Lions as well. And I think the biggest thing for the Seahawks that they need to try to establish in this game, whether they win or lose, is the downfield passing game. That was their bread and butter last year. That no one in the NFL did it better. And Gino has to find that confidence to get the ball down the field. Now, again, the pressure was in on him a lot, and he didn't have a lot of opportunities in week one. You hope that does come a little bit more in week two and as the season progresses. And got to get Jackson Smith-Njigba involved more to kind of take the pressure off of him a little bit, give him an easy throw on third and short, third and medium, get the ball out there. So I want to see them just establish more offensively going forward in the passing game. And the Lions, man, I do think that they're going to be able to move the ball really well. I think that the Seahawks defense is still figuring things out. I'm not sure if Witherspoon is going to make his debut this week or not. I haven't checked to see if his injuries.
I saw some optimism there.
Right. So I think he might, which that was going to be huge for them because, again, I do think he's going to be an impact from day one. But overall, this is going to be a fun game, I think. Overall, I think hopefully a little bit more fun than either the first, the first week with the Lions was fun because they won, but it wasn't a great game to watch, honestly, to me. So hopefully a little bit more fun this week. 49ers, Rams.
I mean, I was going to say your protection's going to be a bit rough when you're having to send 3 guys to team Aaron Donald. So
yeah, it doesn't help. It still didn't always help. That clip of oh my god. It was just so funny.
Very funny. Very funny.
Very relatable.
Need more Gino mic'd up. Like,
exactly.
Give me
very
more.
relatable. He's like, oh, what the hell? But no, 49ers Rams. A more interesting matchup than I expected it to be in week 2. Obviously, the 49ers kind of boat raced my Steelers for a multitude of reasons. We'll talk about them a little bit later. But 49ers Rams, I have this as only interesting just because I don't want to buy too much into week 1 with the Rams. But Stafford looked damn good, man. Like, this team with him operating this offense and Sean McVay calling plays is still a threat if they can just have any sort of defensive performance, which they did in week 1, and the receivers show up. And Tutu Atwell, to his credit, and Puka Nacua, awesome debut, one of the best in NFL history for a rookie, really. 15 targets. Like, he handled that, cup role in terms of target share and like amount of targets really well. I think he held up very well in that game. And I know he got banged up a little bit. I think he's supposed to play, though. I'm not sure about that. I haven't checked that out recently.
Yeah, he's questionable.
Yeah, but I'm sure he'll play. But again, that offense still looked really good. And, the running game was weird because like Kyron Williams outsnapped Cam Akers by a ton, I guess, or something like that. It's a weird backfield situation, but it didn't matter because they were able to just.
He might have outsnapped him, but he didn't outcarry him because Akers had 22 carries.
It was like 24-6 in terms of snaps at
the first half.
Early
I think in the first half.
And there was, if we remember, like last year, Kyron Williams, and maybe this is just in like best ball streets, like not as big. It's just my circle that I was seeing it in.
I like my
but there was a lot of talk about Kyron Williams just being the starter week 1 last year. He lost his season on the kickoff of the first game of the NFL season, and we didn't see him until like much later in the season. So that steam was probably real. Like, you had Adam Schefter saying, like, yeah, I'm hearing that Kyron Williams is going to be the starter in LA. Like, I think that his calling card at Notre Dame was pass pro, and like,
Yes,
I think Sean McVay is just in love with the man who can protect Matt Stafford,
as he should be, because who else will, right?
So like, I would kind of expect that to continue to be the case for him.
I'm a little confused because Kyron Williams in the box score has 0 receptions for 2 yards, and I would like to know how that's possible.
Theoretical.
Maybe he
receptions.
fell on a fumble that somebody else had caught and fumbled. Oh.
No one fumbled. Yeah, there was no lost fumbles.
Maybe we all just imagined it.
He had 2 targets, but it just says he has 0 catches for 2 yards. It was just 1 2-yard something.
That's a PPR nightmare, guys. PPR nightmare.
Oh yeah.
But I'm gonna just stay with the 49ers. I'll kick things off. I watched this team very carefully, obviously week 1. Basically, Kyle Shanahan continues his Shanahanigans. That's what he's doing. He's going to be able to
He can't keep getting away with
but
it.
He can, Zach, and he probably will.
I was talking about it at work. Like, the passes that Brock Purdy is being asked to make, they're just wide open men everywhere in the field. And like, he doesn't even have to put it close. He could just be like, oh, here you go.
Ayuk was out there playing by himself.
Exactly. And I'm just like we're never gonna get to see like how like if Brock Purdy is an actual quarterback and like is like there's like any truth to him being drafted in the 7th round until like a defense forces him to do something more than just throw it to open guys. It's so frustrating because it's like I don't know what, like, this shouldn't be happening. This shouldn't be happening.
I don't know what to make of it. I know that we didn't make it any harder for him than any other team did last year. Obviously, Brandon Ayuk was just out there running around, being, "God, man, there's no one around. What the hell?" Just catching the ball.
Was Debo in the game? Like, was he?
Yeah, he was in there. He just didn't have to do anything. Right?
Okay, because I was about to say, like, I never heard anything about his name. Nothing ever came up, and I'm just like, yo,
they only threw like 29 times,
playing?
I think, because they didn't need to. Because every time he threw, it was a completion, basically. We figured things out a little bit better in the second half, but still, it was a bad game. But the Niners are still the Niners, right? Their defense showed up very much so. Nick Bosa came back and got paid a ton of money, so he's going to be good to go. I'm just going to say I'll take the Niners here still by, a healthy amount, by a touchdown, I would say, because they're just a better football team overall. But I think the Rams are a little bit more for real than we gave them credit for, obviously. So what do you think, Tony?
This is tough. I'm fighting an intrusive thought.
The line is literally -7.
Yeah, and it opened at 8.5. I'm pretty sure, so it's come down.
So, they're probably like, Matt Stafford looked pretty good.
I all off season and then into last week thought that the bottom is going to fall out on Brock Purdy, and not that it's going to be a disaster. It might be a disaster, but I think that eventually we're just gonna, like, I still don't believe in Brock Purdy. I guess I'm gonna continue to bet against it. I didn't think this was gonna be my bit this year, but it's kind of turning into it.
No, it's fine.
I think the 49ers are gonna fall apart at some point, and I don't think the Rams are the Rams are gonna beat them. Why not? The Rams are winning this game. Let's do it.
Kyle Shanahan has to pay for his sins.
The 2016.
They always play a weird game. Something about this game is always weird. Give me a Puka Nacua round 2, like 200 yards, couple touchdowns.
Well, you're gonna, if they win, this is gonna be your pickup on us this week because I can't do it. I'm gonna go with the 49ers.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a very good game. I really do. I just think that the Niners still have enough going for them that, like, the Rams can be really good and it won't matter. Like,
hey, Kyron Williams is gonna get very tested this week because he's gonna go up against a heck of a defense and he is going to have to block his ass off. So we'll see what happens.
Raiders Bills I have as an interesting game solely because I want to see what Josh Allen follows up his week 1 performance, if you want to call it that with. I want to see him just go out there and just drop bombs on dudes' heads.
Hey, let's give some respect. The Jets have a fantastic defense and probably one of the best in the league. So it's not like he was going up against Arizona and was just like, what's going on? Like, this shouldn't be. Like, there was some understanding of, like, okay, yes.
I agree with that, Zach. Here's the thing, though. I legitimately, if you would have jersey swapped Jordan Whitehead into a Bills uniform, I would have believed the passes were meant for him. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. That's just it was tough to watch. And Tony, I'm gonna let you have the floor here in a second, obviously, but he was just throwing up some gimmies against the Jets. It was tough to watch.
Yeah, so everybody like at work the next day was like, "Oh my god, how are you?" Like that was terrible. I was like, "Yeah, that sucks." Like I'm
This is
fine.
what Josh Allen does sometimes, man.
Josh Allen, every quarterback, so many quarterbacks have a thorn in their side. The Jets have been his entire career. They put this man in hell. The second that he steps out on the field against the Jets, he is Zach Wilson, and that's been a constant. And like, luckily we've managed to win some games, but like that's been a constant. So like, am I concerned about Josh Allen? Hell no.
No, I'm not concerned about him either. But
now, if we're talking tomorrow, he goes out and similarly shits the bed, then I'm concerned because I haven't seen it happen against an all-right defense. I have seen it happen many times against the Jets defense. So like, I'm willing to just be like, all right, Josh let things get way out of control. Honestly, like the second Aaron Rodgers went down, I was kind of like, oh, so Josh is going to do his thing against the Jets. Like he's going to do his Jets thing. Like
He said, "Oh, my muse is back on the field.
Josh, all you have to do is just play mistake-free football. Zach Wilson's in there, huh? Jordan Whitehead is open though, guys. He's open.
The headband. I just can't stop looking at the headband.
Yeah. So like, overall, like, yeah, it sucks. It's obviously humiliating. Like, yes, all the jokes are valid. But at the end of the day, and it is week one. We've had week one stinkers before. We've had stinkers against the Jets before. Might as well combine them into 1 week and just get one loss out of the way. But yeah, no, really, like I'm very excited to see Josh against any other opponent because very fair. We are at an inflection point where like Josh has always been the turnover guy. He's just also always been the so good that you're still the second best offense in football. Like he has 24 turnovers or probably 28 now since the start of last season. He was also second in DVOA last year and like an EPA per play. So like it didn't matter last year. It mattered a lot Monday night. Will it matter throughout this season? TBD. If he does it against the Raiders, then I'm seriously concerned. Like, oh, he's got the yips. Something is wrong mentally with this guy. Because like, there's nothing the coaches can do. Because you can hear it. It's been beaten to his head that he needs to stop this shit. He just won't. So it's if he can't get his head on straight against weaker opponents, then yeah, we've got serious concerns. But if it happens against the Jets, it's almost expected at this point. So I'm not going to read too much into it.
Out.
He's out. I figured. I mean, he
I was shocked at like the Bills defense looked really, really damn good. I know like
it did, it's Zach
Wilson for the majority of the game, but
Breece Hall that kind of have his way.
Yeah. So this is where a Bills fan saying the Bills defense looked good usually includes some amount of we gave up an 80-yard run when the Bills defense. Similar to Josh Allen against the Jets.
Guess you guys wait till I talk about the Dolphins.
It is just like so constant that like yes, the defense looks incredible and then they just forget to cover a gap when they're against a very obvious run look. Like so the defense in terms of the safeties, Jordan Poyer didn't look good, but Micah Hyde being back looked so great. Like Trey Wade got sunned on that one play, but the rest of the game he looked good. The defensive line hit Aaron Rodgers all 4 plays he was out on the field, and then they continue to do so to Zach Wilson. So like I think the defense is going to cause some havoc against the offensive line of the Raiders, and I don't think this game is going to be necessarily all that close. We're 1 week away from me starting to pick things to be much closer. Like, but at this point, I'm not reading too much into week one. I still feel very strong about this team, and I don't feel all that great about the Raiders. So still feel the Bills covering and looking pretty good.
What do you think, Zach?
Oh no, Bills cover this game. I mean, the Raiders scored 17 points against the Broncos to their 16. I don't necessarily feel like the Raiders looked all that inspiring. And again, I ask, what are you doing? Like, please let us know. You won the game, but I don't think you meant to win the game.
At what cost?
At what cost?
You know?
They lost their best receiver.
Yeah.
he looked like it.
They definitely acted like he was the best receiver.
This man was an undrafted free agent. Devontae Adams, best in the league, Hall of Famer. He looked hard.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know.
But I mean, the Bills should have no problem, and I agree with Tony. Is that if Josh Allen comes out this week and there's a lot of struggle, it's going to be what the hell, what's going on? What's the problem? Is there an issue? Like, is there like you need to go take a break? Like, you fine? Because you just there's no
Get
reason.
this man some ayahuasca.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something.
Get him a dark room.
Get him a dark
couple-
room with some
Yeah.
videos of dolphins having sex.
Yeah, did you
That's
see that with Pat
yeah,
McAfee?
that's
What
the
Aaron Rodgers
newest
said?
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers says that it's restorative to the body.
Typical.
Which whatever, man. I liked you for a very small moment during Hard Knocks, and now it's gone.
He can't say anything that will surprise me anymore.
No.
Whatever.
So, yeah, Bills win this game. It should be a cut dry wrap. Like,
Yeah. Here's all I'll say about the Bills Raiders in general. Josh Allen, at one point in that game, when he threw the second pick to Jordan Whitehead, I literally said, F it, Jordan Whitehead down there somewhere as soon as he did it, which I thought was funny to myself. I was watching the game by myself. So don't do that again, please. I really don't. I cannot recover from Josh Allen becoming bad again because he's so fun. So don't do that. Also, he cannot lose to Jimmy Garoppolo in the year 2023. I will not recover from it physically. It can't happen. So the Bills have to win. If they don't, you might never see me.
it's gonna happen.
I might disappear into the ether because I'm not doing the shit with Jimmy Garoppolo where he's going to go 2-0 to start a season with freaking Josh McDaniels and the Raiders. I'm not doing it. I won't show up.
Isn't that so fitting? That's what the script writers want.
Here's the thing, Zach. We need to just those
They
two
have
both
to-
don't need to exist. Okay, they don't
there's-
need them in
The NFL season is back, and two things will always be true: Jimmy Garoppolo is going to find a win, and Brock Purdy's going to find a win. That's just how the script writers have it. Apparently,
I guess so. All right, moving on. Jets Cowboys. All right, Zach Wilson still kind of bad. Jets defense really good. Cowboys didn't have to show up. Do we know anything about the offense? Not really, but they have Dak Prescott and not Zach Wilson, so I'll side with that.
but do we know something about the defense?
Yeah, the defense for the Cowboys real good. Stephon Gilmore still good. That's good news for them. Let's just because I want to move things along a little bit to get to our must-see games. If the Jets win, Cowboys fire Mike McCarthy that day. I don't care if the offense scores 40 points. If you lose to a Jets team that's starting Zach Wilson after what you did week one, get him out of here. I just want an excuse for them to fire Mike McCarthy. I don't actually think they should fire him.
Yeah, Cowboys win this.
Yeah, the Cowboys. Do we think that anything's going to happen here where the Cowboys don't win this game just by having a quarterback that's played, somewhat good in his career at least compared to Zach Wilson?
I think this game is not as clear as we may want it to to be.
I don't want the Jets to have hope, Tony.
No, they'll have
if you
hope.
give them
Brandon
hope,
Cooks is hurt,
if you give them hope, they're just going to get more sad.
So we know what the Cowboys defense is going to do to Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
We also know that the Jets defense is
going to
really
give Dak
good.
Prescott some problems.
Yeah,
So Dallas is an 8.5 point favorite. I think this game is going to be too low scoring for an 8.5 point line to be viable.
I agree with that.
I think the Jets are going to do exactly what they did last week on offense, which is try to play the quarterbackless football as best as you can, and just know that you have superstars in Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall, and just lean on them. Hopefully, for your sake, the Cowboys forget to cover a gap. I don't expect the same result there. But I do think that the Jets defense is going to be able to do very similar things to the Cowboys offense. And obviously the Cowboys offense it's probably very good. We, like you said, haven't seen them tested, but they're with Mike McCarthy. It's very much like, this is what we do. We're going to do it. It's not finding a way to solve a problem, and I feel like the Jets can throw way too many problems for them to survive that way. So the Cowboys are going to win. I think it'll be a little bit closer and a surprising result to a lot of people, despite the Cowboys winning.
Yeah, I'll take the Cowboys, and I think it's going to be like a 17-10 game that no one actually really liked that much because both teams are just out there just trying to survive against each other's defenses. I mean, Cowboys
I'll probably
enjoy
win.
it,
Jets cover.
Yeah, I think that is pretty good. Yeah, 8.5 is a lot. I know the Zach Wilson line is real, I believe, but that's pretty aggressive for a team that we don't know a whole lot about with the Cowboys.
That line would have been 1.5.
Exactly.
Zach Wilson's worth an entire touchdown on the spread.
Oh, I mean, yeah, you'd assume so. And then we have Chargers Titans again, which I somehow forgot to throw on there. Probably because I didn't even want to think about either of these teams because like Ryan Tannehill's, in my opinion, just cooked as shit at this point. Like I kind of felt that way last year, and this game did not inspire me to believe differently. Going into week 2 now, and the Chargers, man. Is this team ever going to just put it together for any amount of time?
They did. They did. This is about the Dolphins deserving credit.
Yeah,
the Chargers were excellent.
The Chargers played
defensively. You have a defensive head coach, and you choose to single cover Tyreek Hill the entire game.
How do you cover the 2 fastest, 4 or
with
5
more than one
fastest?
person, ideally,
But
Zach?
then the
at
other
least
one's
to
going to
Tyreek.
be open. But then the other one's going to be
I'd
open.
rather give the chance to Waddle, who at least isn't an established. He's more.
Okay,
Hill is
well,
more of a
let's see what
overall,
let's
right?
see what happens this week with the Chargers, and you will be very surprised to see that they are not going to. They're going to destroy
I'm just upset
Tennessee.
with you have a defensive head coach, and if you have a defensive head coach, if he is not a game-changing defensive mind,
Okay,
it's not worth having him. As
how many
rushing
rushing yards did the Dolphins have?
That's great. When you get thrown on for 400 freaking yards, it could have been 500 because you just refused to cover Tyreek Hill because you're like, he's probably just gonna. I don't know what the idea was with that.
Okay, but
I know exactly what the idea was because they did it last year successfully. It just didn't work.
The
way you stop this offense is the volatile defense where you press at the line of scrimmage and you run press man and you get to Tua. Tua this year found his way to evade, and while evading, instead of hitting his head, he's throwing seeds down the field. This was very much a good defensive game plan getting beat by a better offensive or just a better offense
where,
than it was a bad defensive
look at
game
all
plan.
all the former defensive players working like analysis now. Literally, they were like, "There's nothing you can do about this. He is too damn fast. Within 6 steps of the line of scrimmage, he has 2 yards of separation. Like you just can't do anything about it because Tyreek Hill can break the game of football with how fast he is. And then that's where, yes, stick 3 guys on him, but that's when then you'll have Jalen Waddle wide open. You'll have Braxton Berrios wide open, River Craycraft, because he was diming everyone up. They have built this offense to perfection, surprisingly, even with missing Teron Armstead. So there was nothing last week that the Chargers did where I was like, man, really, guys? Because it was just like, oh wow, this team could Justin Herbert have maybe connected on more passes in the red zone, but he played great. Like there was nothing really to be upset about besides that final drive when they just got blasted by the defense.
Jalen Phillips just said the game's over,
and we'll get into that when we talk about the Dolphins, because I would like to talk about that with the Dolphins,
but no, again, I understand what you guys are saying. I'm not saying that the Tua had an easy time. I'm he was unbelievable in this game, easily the best game of his career in my opinion from top to bottom. This is not me saying oh man, Tua just he didn't have to do anything difficult at all. It's again though, if you're the Chargers at this point, I don't understand why Brandon Staley is your head coach. I do not understand it. I don't see, he doesn't bring anything to me. There's nothing that he's doing.
But we've been saying that for years.
And again, if you have a quarterback like Justin Herbert, if you're not going to have a defensive coach that is truly game changing, or is a true leader of men in the way that a very Vrabel and a Tomlin and that type of thing, you can't get away with having a defensive head coach anymore in the NFL if he's not one of those guys, and he hasn't proven to be that guy in my opinion. It doesn't work because you can bring in Kellen Moore this year, and it already seemed to pay dividends in week 1. They still scored 34 points, but if he continues to do that with this team, he's going to be gone sooner rather than later.
So I guess with some of these qualifiers that we've put on week 2, if they allow DeAndre Hopkins to blow them up and after having a no-show practically in week 1, okay, then yes, maybe we throw some flags on hey, there's some concerns here. But again, I'm not gonna throw the week 1 performance of the Chargers just and say it was awful because they lost to the fastest offense in the NFL.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so, I think the Chargers defense is fine. They don't need to be elite. I completely
if there's
disagree
anything
on the coach thing. Brandon Staley's I believe he's still the play caller. So if you're gonna complain about his ability to call plays, that's fine. But the head coaching job isn't, unless you're play calling one of the sides of the field, your job isn't whatever you came from. It's being the head coach. So like, why if an offensive coordinator gets hired and is not the play caller, not the point man on the offense, all he is a leader of men. It's just he came from the offensive side. It doesn't matter. Like, so Brandon Staley coming from the defensive side, he came from the offensive side before that. Like, why not lean on that? I don't think that the label of what they coached previous to their current job matters to the head coaching title unless they're actively calling plays, which, like, fair gripe with Staley. But you can have a defensive head coach and have a rockstar offense coordinator, because they scored 34 points. So I don't think there's any worries about their ability to produce offense. If your long-term concern is that they have to replace Kellen Moore at some point, fine. But, like, come on, pick good head coaches. Like, that's what matters.
I think that's my gripe is I don't think they did. So we'll see if that changes. But I don't think they did make a good.
I would say my only gripe with the Chargers is somebody needs to sit J.C. Jackson down in the room and be like, yo, what are you doing on the field? Because while he did get the interception, there were times where it was like, are you kidding me?
Man, they needed to ask him that before they gave him the contract, because it was all over his tape before that.
Yeah, that's been a mess for them.
Like that pass interference was jaw dropping. I was like, bro, you just let him not catch that. He wasn't even close, and you guys would have kicked him off the field. You let them score more points. You gave them the win there. It was
Jackson's been a mess. But yeah, again, I'm obviously taking the Chargers in this game. I do think they're going to be just fine in terms of like most teams. But again, like I have a lot of questions about this team long term at the head coach position. Moving on to as far as I think we're done with the interesting games. Yeah, we're on the must-see TV. So let's start with Ravens Bengals, and this is must-see for me not only because I want to see if the Bengals can bounce back from whatever it was that they did in Week 1 against the Browns, which is embarrassing offensive performance. I want to see if this Ravens offense even though you imagine it's a tougher matchup over, I want to see if they can get things going a little bit more than they did in Week 1, because Zay Flowers is great and Jackson overall wasn't bad or anything, but the Texans definitely showed up defensively, and I want to see if the Ravens can kind of really get the passing game going with this new scheme. And overall, like, this is a huge game for the Bengals, because if they go down 0-2 in the division, if they go 0-2 to start the season in division specifically, it's really going to heavily impact their ability. Even if they really show up in the second half of the year moving forward, it's going to really impact their ability to win the division if things get close at the end. So what do you think, Tom?
I guess, yeah.
Okay,
Tony. So I think that the Bengals have they come out flat Week 1.
They do.
We talked about it pre-show last week. I was teetering on wanting to pick the Browns, but I was like, no, he got the contract. It feels different this year. But yeah, it turns out having the offseason, interrupted with a calf injury, threw some wrenches and things. Joe Burrow didn't look healthy, which gonna just come out with it. I think the Ravens are going to win this game because Joe Burrow didn't look healthy, and the Ravens defense, after Roquan Smith joined the team, played really well against the Bengals. I don't have long-term concerns about the Bengals, but I do have early season concerns, and losing this game. Yeah, that hurts your chances at the division, like you were saying. 0-2 in the division is a lot different than 0-2 in general.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Is I guess it does make a difference that it's all divisional.
Yes.
Yeah. And because like last year they started out 0-2, but it was only one divisional game.
Yeah.
And so I think that other than Joe Burrow not being healthy, I don't have other huge concerns about the offense. And then especially because Myles Garrett was just doing stuff we've never seen Myles Garrett do before. Like,
Jim Schwartz.
He played middle linebacker a lot.
Yeah,
and came from. Did y'all see him
Yes, the little crossover stuff. Yeah,
funny. Not going to put too much weight into that. The Bengals are fine. The Ravens looked more concerning Week 1, and I have more long-term concerns about that. But I do expect them to win this week just because Burrow did look still hobbled by this injury, and if Burrow isn't the team just feeds off of Burrow's confidence and everything, and it feels like if he's not 100%, the team feels like they're not 100%, and that's leads to results like last week, and I think we're going to see it one more time. Going to be a close one, not a blowout like this last one, but then I think we see the Bengals start to get rolling deeper into the season.
What do you think, Zach?
I guess I'm not as concerned about the Ravens because I definitely feel like week one was more so of the fact of new offense, and Jackson hadn't started in 6 weeks. He missed the last 6 weeks of the season, so there was some rust to be shaken off. Because I'm not going to count the playoff game because like if they had made the playoffs, it wouldn't have mattered. So I guess like you said, I was excited to see what happened with Zay Flowers and how well he played in week one.
He was fun.
And geez,
Zay's gonna be fine.
prayers up to J.K. Dobbins, poor dude. Like
That dude cannot catch a break.
it's awful. So like I definitely think that the Ravens are going to win this week. I'm slowly if the Bengals keep on this, I mean, like we said, we just said the two divisional games, that's a lot worse than just losing one in another game. But they have gone down 0-2 before, so it's not like it's a death sentence. But you don't want to continue to do that and put yourself in that hole to come back out of. And like, I'm not going to speak to the locker room because I'm not a member of the Cincinnati Bengals, but it can't be great to start a season out with 2 losses and just be like, all right, well, let's climb back up. Because like as a Dolphins fan, I hate the fact that we decide to do that every year and lose like 5 or 6 games at the beginning of the season. It's like, oh yeah, we just got to keep winning. Oh man, and then we get to like week 12 after a 6-game win streak. It's like, oh, we lost to the Titans. Crap.
The Bengals did go 12-2 after their 0-2 start, so they played things a little bit differently on the back nine.
So, it's going to get interesting for Cincinnati if like, and this is a different game. Like last week, it was okay. It's Cleveland. They're going to start coming back, right? This week, I can't be like that because I genuinely feel like the Ravens are a Super Bowl contender, and like that it's not going to just be, oh, you should be winning this game. It's going to be like, nah, y'all got to play some good football to win this game. So let's see that.
So I think for me, and like obviously I have a different perspective on this a little bit because I watch these teams a lot. The Bengals just straight up don't play the Browns well since Joe Burrow's been in the league. It's just been a tough matchup for them.
It's his thorn.
Yeah, kind of.
Two of them in the same show.
Yeah, and it's so I'm going to put a little bit less stock into it than I would otherwise. I think the biggest problem, and it's with Burrow, is if his calf isn't good and he hasn't gotten these reps, and obviously like he's very much a timing accuracy quarterback. Like he's not the guy who's going to rip insane throws down the field or anything. Like he's all about like being very mechanically sound, being very on time with everything, being in sync with his receivers. And that's great. I'm not saying that's like something that's like a negative, but because he hasn't had those reps and because he's hobbled a little bit right now, it's going to affect his play more than maybe it would for some other quarterbacks, especially because Zach Taylor is not exactly an elite play caller. Burrow really helps out a lot with that. Like I think Taylor's not exactly this offensive guru by any means. So you combine all that together, you equal a slow start, right? Like that's just kind of what it's going to be for them. Now, if they go down 0-2 in the division to start the year, that is, I really think, going to affect the potential for playoff seeding and for the division, especially if the Ravens enter Browns, or I'm not even going to talk about the Steelers till later, but like especially if one of those teams do compete with them record-wise at the end of the year and it becomes a tiebreaker situation, it is going to matter. So I think this is a really big game for them. But I do favor the Ravens because, again, I do wonder if Burrow is going to be able to bounce back that quickly after such a bad game. And I do think the Ravens are still for real for the most part. I think their defense played really well. Then the offense is just going to get more comfortable over time. And even though it wasn't his best game, Jackson did have a couple really, really nice throws in that game, especially to Flowers. Like I can think of the like kind of whole shot he threw to him at one point in the game. It was an awesome throw. Like he's definitely, knocking off the rust a little bit still, but he looked pretty good overall. So I'll take the Ravens there, and still probably a relatively close one though, I would say.
Low scoring feels like the very integral part of my prediction is that I think it's going to be like 19-16 or I
don't think it's going to be offensive.
I was just taking a look at the Ravens schedule and realized that I have the ability to see the Dolphins within like 4 weeks because they go to Washington and they go to Baltimore.
Oh, okay, cool.
Sounds like a trip worth making.
Week 13 and 17.
All right. Chiefs Jaguars up next here, and this is obviously huge because playoff matchup last year that was pretty fun overall. Two teams that you expect to be some of the highest seeded teams because of especially the Jaguars schedule.
It's huge because Kansas City gets their Cerberus back.
This is also you want to see what this offense looks like with Travis Kelce in there because it obviously did not look like the Chiefs' offense in Week 1, and a lot of that had to do with Kadarius Toney not being an NFL receiver in the slightest. You hope that will either change or they can avoid it for the most part. Rashee Rice maybe needs to kind of figure it out even as a rookie just to help the team out a little bit.
Yeah, he
MVS
got a
also,
touchdown.
yeah, he did. You just want to see if the Chiefs can replicate what they've been doing, obviously, for years now with the offense, with Kelsey back in there, and if that's the fix-all, right? And also you get Chris Jones back. We'll see, what he kind of looks like early on because I think he got like basically a full week of practice, right? Because he signed on like
they signed
days
at the
ago
beginning of
now.
the week, yeah.
Yeah, so
and I think
should
he
be.
had been practicing. I just think
No, he was away from the team entirely.
he was
So he
away
might have
from
been
the team entirely?
in shape, I think, but like kind
Okay.
of similar to Bosa, where like he was not doing anything with the team. I think they kind of just hold out. But
That's weird that he wasn't doing anything with the
it's-
team, and then week 1 shows up. He's like, "Oh, hey guys, I'm in the stands."
it was just his whole holdout was a whole sham. It was weird. It was dumb. But like, especially because of what ended up happening with it. Like, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but like he lost. He
Well, I mean,
objectively lost.
He got the, I guess, with the yearly money that he wanted. He just didn't get the long term.
But he lost all the fine
though.
money. They didn't pay him his money back.
Yeah, so he
give it back to
spent
him,
like
so.
$6+ million on fines, and they didn't give him those back. They also didn't give him any guaranteed new money.
Yeah,
it's only incentive based.
Damn.
So he really lost. Like he lost.
Yeah, it was
crazy.
It's good for them to have both those guys back. They were going to get to see this Chiefs team at relatively full strength. Obviously, what you expect to see from them this year, versus a Jaguars team that
looked good.
Yeah, I mean Calvin Ridley, man.
The defense is a little, but I don't know if that was more because the volatility of an Anthony Richardson offense, like you don't know what to expect, or if it was just oh no, like this could be concerning.
Right, but I do think though the Jaguars offense was as advertised for the most part.
Yeah.
Calvin Ridley, listen, I knew that was going to be good, but that was a real quick start. You're glad to see that. So I think that their offense is going to be really good. This definitely has the potential to be like a barn burner type game for sure. If the Chiefs offense can get back into things, and if the Chiefs defense doesn't come to play, like you get real high scoring real fast. But this could be one of the most fun games of the week. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, Travis Etienne played well. Tank Bigsby even came in and got some carries. Calvin, like we said, Calvin Ridley, Zay Jones was still doing well. This is a very interesting team. And I love to see it because after so many seasons of Jacksonville being just awful, it's nice to see them back. So I'm very excited. They're at home, right? That makes this a little weird. Yeah. This makes that a little weirder. It's going to be a close one. I want to do the thing and pick Jacksonville, but I also can't fathom Kansas City going 0-2 to start the season.
It does feel like one of those like impossible things, but
yeah,
every year's different.
I know. So give me Kansas City because they got Travis Kelce back. They'll figure it out.
Okay, what do you think, Tony?
I'll just lead with my score. Kansas City 31-20. I think the Jags are a really damn good football team. I think if they played the Chiefs at a different point in this season, I could predict a closer score and feel a little bit better about it. But Andy Reid off of a bye is like a well-known thing. I think it's discounted early in the season because they lost last week, right? Like they technically had a bye going into that. But the real value is like seeing the other teams prepping. They have 3 extra days of rest that the Jags don't have. They have 2 of their 3 best players in this game, which they didn't have last week. And if we're being completely honest with ourselves, I said it kind of a little bit earlier, but like the Chiefs lost themselves that game. And if Kadarius Toney doesn't gift the other team a bunch of points, then you're probably going to be fine.
Game. Yeah, it's a much different game.
So I think
even if he hits that pass down, like that changes the game entirely.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that we are going to see a much more sound Chiefs team. I think that Andy Reid is going to really preach like, hey guys, we lost that. Like that was a very winnable game for us, and we lost it because of just very careless mistakes. And so they're going to be all dressed up. They're going to be on their game. The Jags, I think that we saw in the playoffs last year that they can compete with the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Any one game they can show up, but I don't think that they're catching them at a very nice time because of those things I said about like the Chiefs coming off of a mini bye. The Chiefs, coming off of a loss. It's only happened 16 times in Patrick Mahomes' career, and he only has 3 losses on those 16 games. So he's 13-3 coming off a loss. Not really a big enough sample to be, worth reading too much
But it's
into,
just the
but
fact
they're
that it's only
damn
been
good after a
16
loss.
times.
Yeah, so like I think the Chiefs are just they're happy about the way the schedule worked out for this one, because this should be a closer game, but circumstance is going to lead the Chiefs to a bit of a blowout, I think.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to say 34-27 Chiefs. I think it's going to be, relatively close. I think the Jaguars will make it a game at the end, maybe a little bit, but I think, like you said,
A little
Tony,
Trevor magic.
it's going to be maybe not as close as even the score dictates it or makes it look. So we'll see. I think the Jaguars are going to be just fine, even if that's the case. But it's just a tough matchup to face a Chiefs team that has a lot to play for and wants to prove a lot offensively. Yeah. Steelers Browns. We'll leave Dolphins Patriots for last, right? Steelers Browns. So I have this in a must see because at this point in time, the last 9, I believe it is, times that the Steelers have played the Browns at home, they have not lost to them. So this is a streak possible buster for the Browns. This is a moment for the Browns to go 2-0 in the division to start the year. And it's a way for them to announce themselves if they do think they are a great team, if they want to be a great team. This is a way to kind of announce to the world that, okay, the Steelers-Browns thing is not going to be a thing anymore. The Steelers don't own us anymore. This is a really big opportunity for that franchise to change the narrative about not only this matchup, but also about themselves. If they look really good, if they look dominant especially, even though it's early in the season, I think it really could dictate a lot of what the next 7 to 8 weeks of their season looks like because of the confidence it could possibly bring them. I'm going to let myself kind of go at the end here just so you guys get a chance to talk about everything. So, Tony, what do you think about this matchup?
Yeah, it's in the must-watch bucket, honestly, because
yes,
you actually have thoughts about it. But a big part of it for me on why I think it's must watch is because the other Monday Night Football game that you could watch in place of it is Saints Panthers.
Not good.
So it is by default must watch TV.
When that becomes the game of the week, I'm gonna rub it in y'all's face.
I'll be okay with it.
Yeah, if it happens, though, great.
But yeah, no, I do think that there is something to be said for teams washing off the stink of just getting blown out in week 1. I think the Steelers are obviously a much better team than they showed last week, and I think that Tomlin is going to have them ready at home underdogs. Tomlin, home underdog. I'm bringing up a lot of little betting tipped bits, but I think that they are going to, similar to what I was just saying about the Chiefs, like they're not going to be happy with how they looked last week, and they're going to come out because of good coaching with a very pointed effort to at least be sound in everything they do. I also think that the Browns aren't anywhere near as good as last week may have indicated. Like you were saying earlier, they are a thorn in Burrow's side. Burrow was a little bit injured. The defense, I think, is going to be good and chaotic, but Jim Schwartz, we've kind of seen this play out. He's going to give you chaotic defense, but he's beatable on the back end if you just get the ball out quick. I don't think it's going to be a very high scoring game, but I think the Steelers are still a better team. I believed that 2 weeks ago. I'm not going to put so much into last week that I don't believe it anymore. So Steelers at home Monday night, coming off of a really, really embarrassing, ugly loss when they had some steam going into the season. And the Browns, who I still think are a team that haven't really figured out who they are because Deshaun Watson didn't look great despite the win. So I think the Steelers are going to come out and win in the NFC North. The Steelers beating the Browns by 6 points is a convincing win. So win convincingly, give them 6 points.
Fair enough. What do you think, Zach?
So I would actually slightly push back on I don't like we saw the Browns better than we ever thought because of what you said at the end there. Deshaun Watson had an awful game. He did not play well at all. He 154 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 16 for 29. And
left a lot out there on the field.
Yeah, and I think that goes to show much more so that, yes, Nick Chubb is still out there doing his thing, 106 yards rushing. That defense is stacked. That defense is fantastic. And that's the only thing that concerns me against for the Steelers going up against a defense that really, that was the one thing that was keeping the Browns in games last year. We sit here and talk bad about the Browns, but it's not like they were awful. They were just they're a couple pieces away, and that's what we're kind of still looking at. But the defense looked around and was like, no, 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 no. The Bengals are not doing anything today. We're not going to allow them to. They can score one field goal. That's it. So I'm really hoping for a bounce back from Pittsburgh because that was super, super hard to watch last week. And especially given that it was Brock Purdy, and I hate to continue to acknowledge that. But I'm just hoping that it should be a good game. That's what I'm hoping for. It's a good game. Because I don't think you're going to run into some of the same issues that the Steelers defense ran into last week as well, where the Browns are just going to run away with it. So
very big, not very big, that's an oversell. Relevant news that just came out 5 minutes ago per Ian Rappaport is who I'm seeing it from. Amari Cooper aggravated his groin today and is now questionable for this game.
Yeah, I did see that.
Which matters because Deontay Johnson isn't going to be playing on the Steelers end.
yes.
Yeah. So I'll just jump into it with Steelers first. Pickett last week, Kenny Pickett played the worst game of his professional career. And he's not a guy that put up a ton of numbers last year as a rookie, not a ton of production, but this was still the worst game of his career because the problem was, as bad as Matt Canada is as an offensive coordinator, he is really not much to do with why we weren't good offensively last week. It wasn't like there wasn't plays to be made. He did,
but it
make
says
really
Deport Canada under your name.
Oh, I still believe that. I'm glad you caught that.
I thought you were making like a political statement with that.
No,
I knew it was Matt Canada.
Yeah, it's Deport Matt. Should have just been Deport Matt, not even Canada. But my point is, when Matt Canada isn't the biggest problem for your offense, I'm not happy, right? Like, he's going to be a limiter on this offense. At least don't limit yourself on top of that. And I think that's really when the game got away from them 17-0 early and they abandoned the run game, which again, you kind of have to in certain situations when it's that bad. But when they abandoned the run game and Kenny had to just deal with the pressure, stand in the pocket, he was pressured on like half his dropbacks almost. And he did not handle it well. And this is a guy last year who was one of the better quarterbacks under pressure in terms of like EPA and other statistics. He was able to handle that well last year. I think this game he got rattled early. The pick where Deontay slipped early on was kind of a heartbreaking moment because he was kind of just trying to throw a 50-50 ball and it became a no chance once Deontay fell. Like, nothing was working offensively, and I think it really got to him. And they had the drive at the end of the first half that was relatively good, but even that drive, he missed Deontay for a touchdown and could have finally got Deontay in the end zone after like 2 years, like completely missed that throw. And it was very uncharacteristically bad from him as a passer in terms of his accuracy and his timing. His decision-making has never been particularly amazing, and so that's something that you might have to deal with still, but even that still just kind of regressed in that game. I need to see him get back in control of the offense and be able to run it properly, because at least if he runs the offense properly, we have a shot, even with Canada running the offense. It's when he isn't playing well on top of that where you get 7 points scored, right? And I understand it's the 49ers. They're a really good team, have a great defense, but I was very much not encouraged by that week one performance. And now you lose Deontay, who's your really only established separator on the team, right? Calvin Austin's going to play his role, I imagine, but again, he is technically essentially a rookie who did look good in week one when he got his opportunities, but is he going to be able to replicate that stuff? George Pickens was really mostly ineffective because they didn't really try to get him involved down the field because of the pressure. There's just so many questions I still have about this offense that it does worry me against a Browns defense that's going to be, like you said, chaotic, and unfortunately against Matt Canada offense, you probably can get away with being chaotic and it won't really matter at all. I don't feel great about the game. I'll just be honest. Like, I do not really believe in this offense right now enough to, even if they only have to score 20 points to win, I don't know if they can score 20 points right now. 20 points is something they didn't average last year, haven't averaged under Matt Canada. Like, it's just going to be a tough sledding against this team. And even though they're at home, I know when I did my prediction on a Steelers show I did earlier this week, I did have the Browns winning 20-17, and I kind of still believe that. I think that they'll score 20 points. With Cam Hayward out, defensively, that's going to really hurt in the run game, especially with Nick Chubb. Like, I don't think Deshaun Watson's going to have to do a whole lot of anything for them to score 20 points. Didn't have to last week either. And I don't imagine the Steelers offense currently scoring more than 17 points. Like, that's kind of my cap on them with everything that's going on. So unfortunately, I'm not as optimistic as you guys. I hope that you guys are right, but I'm not feeling great about the matchup.
Well,
I think Minka's gonna make some of those problems go away.
I hope so.
Just
I
like
hope so.
it's Deshaun Watson. All it takes is
I
one or
know.
two passes
Yeah,
going
and
going the other
I
direction.
hope you're right, but I'm gonna be pessimistic.
well,
until proven otherwise.
let's flip gears a little bit
Yes,
then.
let
'cause-
us finish off with talking about again who I know what I said about the Chargers earlier. This was not an indictment on what I thought the Dolphins did. I'm not saying it was just because the Chargers are bad or anything like that. Dolphins Patriots. I'll just kick it off. Tua played the best game in his career last week, like bar none. The stuff that he showed.
No.
Like
Kendall Lamb played the best game of his
Well,
career last week.
I mean, yeah, but
Tua made it kind of easy on him sometimes.
he did.
Like,
He did. He like his pocket movements and the ability to throw the ball down the field with more, a little bit more juice. I would say I saw from him than I've seen from him in the past. And just again, it was more so like a lot of the deep balls last year. My whole thing with it was like, okay, it doesn't matter if it's underthrown if he's open by 5 yards, but like I would have liked to see a little bit more of the opportunity for them to run with it on the deep shots, even though they were working. This game, he was on target, on the money all day. Like he had there was a couple of moments in the game like where he kind of went on a weird streak, and I know I didn't see the pick because I was watching something else at the time, but like I don't know if that had anything to do with him or not. I have no idea, but overall, like just spectacular performance by the Dolphins offense, especially obviously the passing offense, running game, whatever. It didn't really matter in this game, luckily for them, but. Yeah, like, but again,
a normal day as
yes,
being a Dolphins
yeah,
fan.
exactly, yeah. But when you throw for damn near 500 yards, you can get away with it, right? But I want to hand it over to Zach here. I want to know what you think about this particular matchup.
This matchup?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not worried about this matchup. Ever since Brady, even with Brady, we've been. This is you talk about thorns inside. Miami has the irony of being the thorn in the side of every single team in the AFC East because we just
without winning.
Well, no, but we do though.
Sorry,
That's
Zach.
the thing. Like the Patriots, I think they've won one game since Brady left against us. We've completely taken over that series, and even when Brady was there, we were
y'all
the
were
one
good
team.
for one a year against them at minimum.
Exactly. Yeah, it was always like, oh, here comes the one
Miracle,
game
baby.
they're gonna lose. Even with the Buffalo, we've gone. I mean, it's been the growth of both of these teams back and forth throughout the years. They go back and forth really well together. I would say if there was any actual thorn in our side, it's the freaking Jets because they're just annoying.
Jets are indeed annoying.
They are an annoying team because it's like, oh man, like they could be. We should beat them, no problem. And then all of a sudden, it's like, why are we struggling right now? This doesn't make any sense. No, I was absolutely thrilled. You could ask my girlfriend. I sat and watched the entire thing from wire to wire. And was very, very much surprised as the game went on. My biggest concern always as a Dolphins fan is the ability to score points. And that was not a problem in week one. Because that was, you go back to any game last year, it was that they just could not finish drives. There was something dumb. And the game started, there was the interception. It was like, oh Lord, here we go again. The biggest thing from this game is, yes, the defense made the stops when they needed to, but they have to do something more because they were just
you're going to need more out of that defense.
Steamrolled over, which again is not necessarily something that's new to say as a Dolphins fan, because that's as great as they can be at times. They are also a massive hindrance with just they've personified the bend but don't break style of defense. It used to be a Belichick special, and now it's just like, yeah, we're gonna let as much go as we can, and then we'll just end up scoring, which awesome. I have not really paid attention if Teron Armstead is back this week, but I don't think that matters because we talk about off-season changes for a quarterback, and I think the most marketable one, or the most marketably known one, is Josh Allen, just going from being like not great to amazing. I'm not saying that to the same step, but the difference of Tua's pocket presence from last year to this year is night and day. I don't know if it was the confidence of learning how to fall and not worrying about like what's going to happen, but the man is maneuvering the puck on that one up seam shot to Tyreek Hill. He maneuvered all the way from the back, stepped all the way up to where the offensive line started at the line of scrimmage, and just tossed that thing on the run on a rope like it was nothing. If that's what this team is this year, we going to the Super Bowl, baby. I can't wait.
What do you think, Tony?
I'm I'm just happy that I was on the train all off season. Like this is like as far as AFC East, or AFC darlings, I guess. Like I was very on the Dolphins being even better this year, the offense being even better this year. I didn't expect it to be on the back of Tua evolving the way he did. Because I thought it was just going to be like, oh yeah, Tua's just going to be healthier and continue to just do the thing that he did last year. But no, he, in addition to being healthier, he took a step. And so ceiling on the offense is untapped, right? Or like it should, there's no such thing as a ceiling to this offense. It can just continue to go up.
It's
up.
such fun football. That's the end all be all. It's exciting to watch. It's like, oh my gosh, this team has no chance. It's 3rd and 25, and it's like, nope. Oh, hey, it's first down now. Well, look at this. And it's just like, what do you mean it's first down? This should not be happening.
Yeah, I said it in the AFC's preview. Like we are going to recognize Mike McDaniel as the best play caller in the NFL after this season. I still believe that. Week 1 made me feel really good about that. I think that their defensive concerns, I'm not as concerned about. Games between superstar quarterbacks in the contender status, they are offensive games.
Yeah,
majority of the time. Sometimes you can only do so much to stop the tide of the type of game it's going to be. And yeah, I wish they were better in run defense. I also think that this is a completely new scheme, a shift in mentality, and that presents, I think, more in getting run over all the time, especially when it's a Fangio-based defense. Like,
yes, you're accepting some amount of that when you're running.
And that
Brandon Staley is a disciple of this. He's the extremist for it, but he always says we want to give them 4 to 5 yards every play because at some point they will mess up. We do not want to get beat by explosives, and that's the philosophy.
That was a take that I
tough, easier said than done against the Dolphins.
And that's a take that I did see this week after the game from Kyle Krabs. He does the Locked On Dolphins podcast, and he was saying, "Look,
Locked On NFL Scouting."
I think so. Yeah. He was saying that, look, Austin Eckler ran for 117 yards and a touchdown. However, you limited Justin Herbert to 229 yards and 1 touchdown. If their game plan the entire time was don't let Herbert do anything, that's fine. They'll let Austin Eckler get some rushing yards. They'll let all this other stuff happen. But at the end of the day, if the game plan coming into the day was shut down Justin Herbert, that's how you're going to win this game. They did that and they won the game. So you can't be too upset. Could there be some like avenues where it's like, yes, they should improve in this aspect. They should have done this differently. Absolutely. But at the end of the day, you held who was supposed to be one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league to 229 yards and 1 touchdown. You can't be too disappointed about that.
Yeah, and I think the Chargers would argue like our offense did everything we wanted it to, but the run defense, the tackling, the run fits, and all of that will improve over the course of the season. But it's nice to see that the defense is playing out against elite quarterbacks to at least like stifle what they're able to do. His ADOT was still pretty low. It was higher than it used to be, but it was still pretty low. Like make that happen and then figure out the rest in the fly. But shifting gears to the Patriots now for this game, I think the Patriots were damn impressive when they played the Eagles.
100%.
I similarly nowhere near the level of confidence I had in the Dolphins, but I thought the Patriots were going to be much improved because offensively the concept of going from an absolute disaster to somebody who knows what they're doing is immeasurable. Like it just has such a lift, and you saw that Mac Jones was pretty damn good. He looked on the money. They were using Hunter Henry well, finally paying making that worth it. That contract they gave him. They did a lot of things right on offense. I think they moved the ball well. And then defensively, like they made stuff look hard. Now, of course, the Vikings then went and did the same kind of thing last night. So like TBD, maybe the Eagles are making things look hard for their own offense, and it's not the defensive influence. But also, I said it going into the season, I think this is the best defensive roster the Patriots have had in a long time. This is the fastest defensive roster they've had. They are going to be much more involved in this season than we had given them credit for, I think. I still don't think I don't even know if it means playoffs, but I think they are going to be always playing the top teams tough, and that means they're going to be heavily involved in the season. I think the Dolphins are better, and like you said, I think the Dolphins know how to get the best of the Patriots. They've really been flexing that muscle lately. So I think that continues, but I do think that the Patriots continue on this arc of like hey, coming away feeling pretty good about them. Like, I think the Dolphins we're gonna come out in this upcoming week being like, holy shit, they're still so good. But we're at least going to respect the Patriots one step further because we're like, wow, the second straight pretty good offense they just played pretty decent against. So yeah, give me a Dolphins win, but we're not going to come away from it feeling too terrible about the Patriots either, I think.
Yeah, I think my whole thing with it at this point is like, if you're the Patriots, their defense is their calling card, even though the offense is definitely better this year already, just because they have an offensive coordinator this year instead of whatever they thought they had last year. So they're going to be more competitive on that side of the ball, and I think their defense is going to have a better opportunity to limit some of what Miami does. I don't think it's going to be enough to win. Like you guys said, I do think Miami comes away with the win here, but with Tua, I wanted to mention, like, for me, whenever he was coming out, the thing I always thought about with him is like his ideal, like, best case scenario was what we see right now, which is the elite precision passer who just plays mistake-free football for the most part and can elevate his offense with his accuracy and his anticipation throwing the football. He is turned into, at this point, I think this is the ideal scenario for him as a player, where the scheme and the talent around him and the way he plays all meshes together perfectly. And like I've seen some people on Twitter being like, oh, they always say it's a scheme with Tua, but they don't say it's a scheme with the other, quarterbacks. Or it's like, well, the thing is, it's not. I'm not saying that Tua isn't also playing great. It's the fact that like this is maybe the most uniquely perfect scheme to player and players around him that exists in the NFL today. Like Kyle Shannon's scheme is obviously it's his scheme, and like McDaniel's a disciple of him. So like there's elements of that, and you see how well Brock Purdy is also playing. But it is just throwing with anticipation to receivers with this speed and getting the ball in their hands at the perfect time is just a cheat code in the NFL. Like you talked about, Zach, like and also like one of the things I really liked that they did last week was they have Tyreek Hill in motion at the snap and he's already up to speed and running his route.
Yep.
Like that is just, I honestly, if the NFL said, yeah, sorry, only Tyreek Hill isn't allowed to do that, I would not honestly blame them that much. Like that's how scary that is. Like it's insane for him to be able to get up to, I understand like it's fine, but like for him to get up to speed and already be in speed running his route is just like not fair. It's just insane. Like some of the stuff he was pulling off last week. And he talked about he wanted to get 2,000 yards receiving this year. I'm not going to bet against him because like how can you like assume he won't? Because it's insane. Like if Tua,
you only need 10 games with 200 yards apiece.
Exactly. Yeah.
Pretty easy.
For him, if Tua plays at the level he played week 1, even half the time this year,
hey, he might break 6,000 yards.
Yeah.
I looked it up. It's actually not that. Well, I mean, I say not that difficult. You have to average like 330 a game.
Yeah, it's a lot. But it's like if Tua plays half his games at this level this year, this offense will be historically productive in the passing game. Like it's perfect. It's just everything about it is perfect for him, and I'm glad to see that from him because like that was always my thing with him is like the theoretical ceiling with everything perfect is there because of how good of an accuracy and timing and like I said, really it's the anticipation throwing. Like some of the windows he was throwing, like it's not even like whether the windows are small, big, whatever. It's just him putting the ball exactly where it needs to be at the exact time to where the receiver can just run under it, essentially. That's his greatest strength as a passer, and he displayed it in a way that even none of us have really seen up to this point in week 1, right? Like that's where it's at.
And I think this is one of the few instances where you've seen a coaching staff literally just pluck an offensive system from college and just be like, yeah, no, we're running this here because we have this guy. He knows how to run it the best. Nobody else is going to be able to do this because you don't have this guy.
You don't have the speed. Like the element is really what changes the game because if you had just regular like normal receivers in this offense, it'd still be very good.
Well, that's what the problem was earlier in his career when he was throwing to guys like Devontae Parker and stuff like that. We were like, yo, the problem is that doesn't work for his style of game. He's not throwing really, to separators at the point of catch. He needs the separation before the catch to be like, okay, yeah, dude's open, bombs away. So like it makes sense why this is all blossomed into what it is. And yeah, I'm looking forward to 2-0 this week. It's been a while since I've been able to say
2-0, Zach.
2-0.
2-0.
Take me to a title.
Yeah, there you go. That's
good.
Now
you're just giving the football gods ammo.
That's the name of the name of my fantasy team. That's the name of my fantasy team.
Nice.
I have him on my fantasy team. I had to.
Of course, yeah. He was on my fantasy team last year. Actually, one of my
Oh,
leagues.
this is my dynasty. That dynasty
Oh, nice.
I had Russell Wilson, Tua, and Jordan Love. Let me tell you how much that quarterback room has changed in one offseason.
Yeah, it's a little weird, but all right. So I think we
I
all
also
have
had
Miami
Drew
winning.
Lock, and
Yeah.
I was hoping that he was going to beat out
Didn't happen.
Geno
Zach,
Smith, but
sorry.
no.
Sorry, it didn't happen. But I think that'll do it for this week. Guys, anything else you want to add about the week before we get out of here?
I'm looking forward to a wonderful slate of college football today as my Virginia Tech Hokies take on Rutgers. So
Big matchups.
hey, we lost to Purdue last week, so hopefully we can win this one.
Why are you guys doing so much Big Ten play?
I don't know specific. I don't think it's an ACC thing. I think it's specifically a Virginia Tech thing. Because we've burned bridges.
Isn't everything?
No, we've burned bridges with a lot of our close by teams. Like East Carolina and us will not schedule a thing anytime soon. Like that relationship is dead after the hurricane like a couple years ago. There was some issues. So and they don't want to schedule more teams like OD. Like, do you think they're gonna play JMU after the ODU's giving them hell every year? No, absolutely not. We can't afford that. So they have to go out of state to get some lower tier teams to then lose to, so it's not as bad.
Yeah.
That's why we play Marshall.
Fair enough. Yeah. My only comment
Marshall might get that dub.
They did. I think they did last year.
Yeah, Virginia Tech's. Yeah. All I want to say before we get out of here is that I hope Colorado beats Colorado State 100-0.
Go Tennessee.
Just because I think that'd be funny. I don't know if you guys caught the whole thing with Deion Sanders and the head coach of the other team. Basically, the other head coach was like, when I was taught that you take your glasses off and you look a man in the eyes when you're talking to him or something weird.
Wait. Why would you take your glasses off? If I take my glasses off,
sunglasses.
Okay, I was gonna say I won't be able to see you, man.
I
would like to see you.
Like sunglasses and hat, like you take it off when you're talking to a grown adult or whatever. And I'm like, dude, you coach at Colorado State, and Deion Sanders is the coach opposite you. Just be happy to be there.
Just be happy you're here.
Like, I'm sorry, you don't want to add any more reason for Deion to want to smoke you 75-0. But all right, that's all.
Well, I think what Norvell did at Florida State was enough reason for Deion to already hate him.
Oh, it's Norvell.
Yeah, Jay Norvell. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah.
Wait.
But
it's not Mike Norvell coaching there. Okay. I
thought.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So just same last name. I was off.
Just bad. Just again, like I think Colorado's going to win by 100 points, or they should.
I think the spread is like 30.
It's 24 right now, and I think that's being generous. But that'll do it for this week, folks. We'll be back next week to talk about week 3 action, and I'm going to try to this time go back and see what our actual record predictions are so far,
and have all the games.
Yeah, and all the games before we start. All right. We'll see you guys next time.